Okay, so hello everyone, and thank you for joining this panel discussion, Strengthening Clients' Digital Business Skills. My name is Lisa Richmond, and it is with great pleasure I am here today to moderate this session. Thank you, MFC, for organizing this wonderful conference. So I work for the Center for Inclusive Growth, which is a social impact arm of MasterCard. We have a very distinct mission, so we use the company's assets, the data, technology, expertise, and people, and pair them with the center's assets to drive our vision of inclusive growth and build inclusive economies. In this session today, we are going to talk about the other side of digitization, the digitization of client businesses, being part of the new world of cyber communication, virtual sales and marketing, and much more. Our speakers today will talk about the benefits of going digital and will present how they support their clients in digital skills and development, including their tools and approaches. Today, we have a great panel of speakers. We're going to hear from Nicholas Federici, Senior Consultant at Caribou Digital. We're going to hear from Agni Pagnini, Business Development Services Officer from Kepa. And we're going to hear from Chloe Bouquier, Product Owner from 80. I'm now going to hand over to Nicholas, who's going to present first and talk about his broad conceptual tools.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you everyone for joining the session. It's my great pleasure to introduce and present some insights from recent prior work of mine that I did for the ILO, the International Labour Organization. And hopefully this work that I'll present to you today will help you target your digital business skills support more directly and better at micro and small enterprises, MSEs. So just by way of introduction about Caribou Digital, we are I'm speaking to you today as a senior consultant there, and we do work that cuts across research, original research, but also strategic advisory, and as well as innovative kind of operational projects and funds. And we think a lot about digital technologies and digital economies, but I think what differentiates us is that we're trying to do not digital development, but rather think about development in the digital age. So think about digital technologies, digital economies more broadly and more deeply to then understand how they can be made more inclusive. And today I want to provide you some tools and give you some support in tackling a key challenge that anyone who is expecting and trying to support micro and small enterprises, MSEs, to use digital technologies is really facing, and that is that MSEs are extremely diverse. So anything from a street vendor to a biotech startup, those are MSEs. So those are both MSEs. But clearly, even if you just look at these two examples, the needs and expectations that these organizations will have towards digital technologies will be drastically different. And the resource that I want to explain to you today and bring to you today is the Small Goals Digital Report that I compiled for the International Labour Organization. It's a wide-reaching lit review on digitalization and how digitalization brings about productivity for MSEs. The focus is really on micro and small enterprises. I think that distinguishes the report from some other reports that focus on medium-sized or large enterprises. So it focuses directly on that. And so, digitalization productivity is a huge topic, and there's a lot of information in this report. I would definitely recommend that you check it out. I put the link here. If you just Google Small Goals Digital ILO, it should come up. But today I just want to focus on two specific elements in the report that should be relevant for this topic of digital business skills. And to me, those two concepts are hopefully tools for you that drive home this insight on how you can design and support MSEs better. And the two concepts are capabilities and the typology of MSEs. And so broadly, both of these concepts should help you see things better and more clearly from the MSE perspective, rather than from a technology perspective or from your own organization's perspective. So first on this notion of capabilities. So the feedback that I got for the report was often that sounds like a very kind of academic concept. What does that mean, capabilities? But to me, this concept holds a key foundational insight. That is that two MSEs may have the same digital access. They may be in the same location. They may look the same. They have the same tangible attributes. And they may still be able to take advantage of digitalization drastically differently, depending on their capabilities. And so why is that? Because capabilities are intangible. So intangible, these are really these intangible assets like mindsets and skills that business owners, staff, usually the employees, the people working in an MSE would have, and then how these people work together. So they're intangible assets that MSEs have that then matter for how they use digital technologies and how they're able to benefit from the support that you're trying to provide them. So if you believe me that these intangible assets, these capabilities matter, then we can move to look a bit more closely at what kinds of capabilities are there. There's certainly a lot of different ways to conceptualize this, but the report, based on this lit review that it does, identifies 4 important capabilities that MSEs may have. 2 of them you're probably familiar with. 2 are a bit less known. The first is the depth of digital adoption. So here it's important that it's not just, yes, no, do you use the internet, but rather do MSEs use a number of different applications, a number of different applications. Do all staff use these applications? So it's the depth then of the digital adoption that matters. The second, of course, closest related to today's topic is digital skills. And we all know this notion of, do you know how to use a computer or a smartphone? But here again, the report identifies that this capability is a bit broader than that. So it's also about to select staff's ability to select which applications are relevant for the MSE, to look for and contextualize information, and then to adapt digital applications to the specific needs. And then there's 2 more capabilities that are a little bit less known, but that the literature really shows to be extremely important. One is innovation orientation. So this refers to, is the MSE, and especially the owner, risk-friendly? Are they open to changing the ways that established ways of doing things, what they're currently doing? Are they open to introducing new technologies in new ways? And then for MSEs that have a few more staff, do they have a flexible management structure? Can they change the workflows? Can they give autonomy to staff to handle things independently in their day-to-day work? And so, the important thing here is that, okay, there's these 4 capabilities, but also that they enhance each other and that they're complementary in the true sense of the word. They are complements. So if you have only one of these capabilities, that will not help the MSE a lot in getting more productive, but actually you need a little bit of all these capabilities to advance. And so that helps you look basically for bottlenecks when you look at MSEs. You need to see, okay, which of these capabilities is not present, and then work on that one rather. And so, to come back to the kind of framing and topic of the session, to me, it's important that we understand that there's digital skills, but then there's also the much broader notion of skills for a digital age. And so, this report shows, and I think this is also a lot of other work, we need to come away from the notion of skills, digital skills being, okay, do you know how to use a computer? But rather it is the selection of application, as I mentioned, but even broader than that. If you then look at this innovation orientation that I mentioned, if you look at the management structures, etc., all of a sudden we have a much broader understanding of skills that are necessary in the digital age for MSEs to organize their internal process, but also how to position themselves within the digital economy. And I think only if we broaden our understanding of what these skills actually are that are relevant, can we then come up with support interventions that address these in more effective ways than, for instance, just standardized IT courses and things of that nature. And so the second conceptual tool that I wanted to offer is a typology. So I think a lot of the literature, but also a lot of the support landscape has kind of a preconceived notion of what an MSE is. Often we think of these like extremely unproductive small micro enterprises like these street vendors, or we think about startups that are obviously growth oriented and know how to use technology very well. And so this typology tries to say, yes, those kinds of MSEs exist, but there's also a lot of MSEs in between. And it tries to differentiate these 5 types. So the micro enterprise that I mentioned, then locally oriented small enterprises, export oriented small enterprises, and knowledge-oriented small enterprise, and then we have the startup as the 5th type. So it's trying to show you that there's certain kinds of that it matters whether small businesses locally oriented or export oriented? Do they trade internationally? Do they have partners abroad? And whether it is knowledge oriented, whether the value creation really comes from knowledge or not. So knowledge oriented small enterprises are then creative agencies, legal practices, consultancies. Even Caribou Digital could be considered here as a knowledge oriented small enterprise. So trying to use this typology to broaden your perspective of what MSEs are, to then understand again, okay, what could be the shortcomings that they have in terms of capabilities. And I'm not going to go through the details here, and the report obviously has a lot on this, but just to kind of flag that these 5 types exist. And so then if you lay these 2 concepts, typology and capabilities, on top of each other, we start to get a little bit closer to this, targeting and understanding MSEs a little bit better. And so the report does this with this simple heat map to try to say, okay, where is typically the bottleneck of the capability, the biggest for these 5 types of MSEs. And so you can now kind of more systematically think through the kind of challenges and then support needs that the MSEs may have. So micro enterprises, they may benefit from these standardized IT trainings, how to use software, etc., that I mentioned. They may benefit from that, but an export-oriented small business, for instance, they would benefit much more if you focus your support on this management and decision-making aspect that you hear in the flexible management side. So this is the concepts that I wanted to introduce to you. Now, this is still conceptual, obviously, by definition. And of course, I would like you to put this into practice. So how can we do this? Well, first of all, I think you will have 2 presentations following this that will show you concrete examples. But beyond that, I'm afraid that the lesson from this is simply that one size does not fit all. We have to come away from these standardized approaches and rather use these general principles and then these broad kind of like typologies and ways of sorting through MSEs that are introduced, but then actually look in the specific context what works. And so I mentioned 2 broad principles here that I think always apply, and that is user centricity. You got to put yourself in the shoes of the MSEs, guided a little bit by what I introduced today, and then be very intentional about how to design the support interventions that could help them. And then I think the kinds of new methods that are emerging, I've summarized here as kind of like scalable customization. Sounds like an oxymoron, like a paradox, but some of these methods have shown that you can try to customize to the individual MSE's context while being scalable. So things like peer mentoring achieve that, right? Because the MSEs help each other and thereby customize in the process. Or learning by doing. Again, it's going to be guided process, but the MSE then adapting themselves to their own context. And then multi-channel approaches where you have different technology channels, different media channels to reach MSEs so that they can select the channel that works for them. And then I think also generally, because if you try to get this more holistic understanding of skills, no single organization can tackle this, but rather than partnerships and support communities are relevant. And I would love to mention also specific examples, but I will have to leave you with a kind of cop-out, but also a cliffhanger, because we will actually start next week. We will launch the Center for Inclusive Growth will launch a major initiative on this that Caribou Digital that we will manage. And we will actually focus on some of these particular ways of concretely helping small businesses that I mentioned here. But since the launch is next week, I can't speak to this in too much detail, so I can only ask you to stay tuned and follow up with us next week. And with that, I'll hand over to the next speakers to give you maybe concrete examples of how this could be put into practice. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Nicholas. That was very insightful and very interesting to learn about the 4 capabilities, how they enhance one another and complement one another as well. I think the distinction between digital skills and skills for digital age is very important, as well as the typology. I'm now going to hand over to Agni, who's going to present to you different tools and approaches that are more tangible. Agni, over to you now.
So thank you very much, Lisa. Thank you all for joining this session. And we would like, on behalf of KEPA, to thank MFC for this invitation. KEPA is known and is synonymous to in Greece for its support to small and medium-sized businesses. It's a private non-for-profit organization, and it is based in Thessaloniki. For almost 30 years, we have supported small and micro and medium-sized enterprises, acting as an intermediate managing authority through funding, national funding, and European projects funding. And we have dispersed more than 900 million euros to more than 16,000 different final beneficiaries. Apart from that, KEPA has a very broad experience on EU projects, specifically in the field of business innovation and entrepreneurship. What all started via its MicroStars initiative. MicroStars initiative started back in 2015, and up to now we still offer our business development services to micro and small enterprises, either by counseling support, either by offering workshops, open workshops that are free of charge to businessmen and businessmen to be. We had developed an e-learning platform, the MicroStars Learning Academy. And apart from that, there was also the opportunity to offer microloans in cooperation with some banks, the microloans to micro enterprises. Apart from that, we kept offering services, and we had a consortium, we had a partnership with some other microfinance institutions from the Balkans area, with Microfund Sofia Foundation, with FedInvest, and Albania Besa Capital from Fondi Besa, and our University of Macedonia here in Thessaloniki. So we developed a very new European project, Skills for Micro and Small Enterprises, which lies under indirect programs that are co-funded by the European Union. So what we did to support the small, micro and small enterprises in our region. We have developed an e-learning platform under this project that is offering a variety of lessons that refer to basic entrepreneurial skills, soft skills, and digital skills. What we found out throughout this project was that the majority, we have up to now almost 280 participants that have joined our e-learning platform. And what we saw was that the majority of the participants, of the beneficiaries, followed lessons that were related to digital skills, how to improve their digital skills. We had also made a YouTube channel, and we have uploaded various short videos that were prepared by our, let's say, consortium of experts. Experts that are professionals that deal with marketing, with business, with sales. So as you may see now, we have, let's say, a picture of a lesson that is called how to create an e-shop and promote it digitally. There is a big variety of lessons and videos in our Skills for MSC's YouTube channel. And it's free and open to follow and to be followed by everyone. And if we say it in, let's say, in more simple words, what we have done so far, not only here in Greece, but also in Albania and in Bulgaria by our partners, we have made a lot of webinars and workshops Throughout this process, we have found out that some of the beneficiaries would like to have a self-guided learning VA learning platform, or even better, to deepen more in what skills need to be developed by them via one-to-one coaching and peer mentoring. So we have tried to build this community of knowledge for competitive and digitized micro and small enterprises. What we have seen so far is that the majority needs, their needs lie mainly on digital marketing, on how to interpret data analytics, and how to use cloud computing programs like Office 365 or like Dropbox, etc. So we would like to invite anyone to reboot their skills and to be more precise, their digital skills. As Nicola said earlier, we are living in a digital era. And developing our digital skills, it's much more essential to have a competitive enterprise. Thank you all.
Great, thank you so much. That was very interesting. I think it was very nice to see the work you were doing to help these entrepreneurs via your MicroStars initiative and also via your skills for micro and small enterprises. I will now hand over to Chloe, who is going to walk you through some more different presentations.
Hi everyone. Thank you for having me. Yes, I have a presentation to share as well. Just let me read it up. Yeah, okay. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm part of the association ADI. So we defend the idea that everyone can become an entrepreneur if they have access to financial and non-financial support. And I will just give you a few words about ADI. So it has been created in 1989 by Maria Novak. We help so far 270,000 of people, and we are nearly 2,000 people working for the organization. We also do advocacy, and we also have an international department to contribute to the development of microfinance outside. You have a lot of information on this slide, but I won't talk about everything. You will, I think, receive the presentation after the PPT after the presentation. Just a few words about our clients. So there is many figures, but the more important about digitalization is about diploma. So 26% of our clients doesn't have diploma. 43% of them live under the poverty line, and 25% live in rural areas. So the three factors we talked about are very linked to the digital exclusion, sorry. So now we can go to the main subject and talk about the use of digital tools and attitude of our clients. So we conduct a survey in 2018, and that shows us about our clients that 30% of them never use digital tools, or very few, once a month, sorry. 12% of them are using it, but only for basic stuff, like sending mails or researches. And 58% of them are using it, using social media and so on, but only for personal use and not professional one. So our goal is to help them to use digitalization in order to grow the enterprise and develop the enterprise. So we want to provide support for each level of digitalization. So the first one is about administrative process. So 60% of our clients cannot use internet to do online procedure, and it's a big problem. For example, during the pandemic, the government created a grant, but the application was only online. So most of our clients cannot ask for the grant. So we have to help them in order to get the grant. And unfortunately, the government will increase the dematerialization of administrative procedures because in order to save money, easy to understand. And so we want to help our client in order to do the administrative process online. So we created 20 tutorials. I will show you the tool, and I'm sorry, it's in French, but you will understand the principle. So you have a summary with all the governmental organization. You just have to click on it, and after you have the list of the procedure linked to that organization. You just have to choose the one you are interested in. And after you have the choice, you can see the tutorial for mobile phone or for computers. We also have a video for people who cannot read French, because it's very important. And after, when you see the tutorial, you have a step-by-step how to do the procedure. The second level of our support provide is about digitalization of our clients' activity. So we know 18% of our clients believe that their lack of competence is a problem for the development of their business. 12% want to be accompanied, and 28% of our clients want to create their own website. So in order to fulfill these needs, we created 4 different tools. The first one is a workshop. So it's in presence, it's 2 hours and a half. And the aim is to raise awareness about digital marketing. In order to do that, we speak about digital strategy, first of all. And after, we speak about all the tools they have at their disposition. The second one is 16 fact sheets. It's about specific subject we talked about in a workshop. But if the clients want to go deeper, you can ask for individual meetings with an expert or volunteer, and you can have all the answer of his question. The third, we have an example, about the fact sheet. So you can see this one is about Facebook. So you can see who is using Facebook, why I have to use it, what kind of publication I can do, how I can create an account, and so on. So you have a lot of subjects covered by these fact sheets. The third tools is about an online training. It's 4-session group session online, and it takes 2 to 3 weeks to cover all the training. And between the group session, you have meetings with tutoring with an expert in digital marketing, and you also have some exercise to do online. The fourth tools is a marketplace. So we can take a look to the website. So is a website we developed in ADI, in intern, and only our clients can be on this website. They can propose their product. Right now, it's just experimentation stage. So it's only clients from Paris, but we can teach them how to take good picture, write a good description, how to manage with delivery, how to manage with the supply chain, and so on. Yes, in a few months, we will be able to propose this product to every of our clients. And to finish, I just want to talk about the partnerships we negotiate with a French IT provider in order to get discount on digital equipments for our clients, because we know that 30% of them doesn't have a computer or a smartphone. So in order for them to get some equipments, in order to develop the business, they can get the discount. Thank you very much for your attention. You have my contact details below. You also have the email of the international department if you want to share with them.
Great. Thank you so much, Chloe. I thought that was very interesting to hear about. I love the fact that everyone can become an entrepreneur, and the practical tools you are providing is very interesting. So with this, I'd like to thank our speakers. I think this has been a very thought-provoking presentations, provided some great insights into the various tools, approaches, and concepts that are helping entrepreneurs in the digital economy. At the moment, while we wait for questions to come through in the chat, I think we have really a few minutes just to ask each presenter one question. I see in the chat that Nicholas was willing to expand on his comment about generalized knowledge and changing that into knowledge in action. So Nicholas, if you'd like to take this question, more than happy for you to expand on it slightly, potentially in about 1.5 minutes.
I'll do my best. Yeah, thank you, Lisa, and thank you for Grzegorz for the question. I hope I'm pronouncing that halfway okay. Yeah, Grzegorz asked about Tim Ogden's mention about kind of behavioral change rather than knowledge in general that he mentioned in his keynote this morning. And to me, this speaks to what I tried to present on today, because it doesn't matter so much whether an MSE then in the abstract knows how to use a computer, or again, like standardized in a generalized way, or even if they know in a generalized way about their sector or the digital economy. But they need to know this, and they need to have knowledge in action. So in the actual processes of selling, of engaging with partners, of doing what they're doing day to day, that knowledge, that knowledge matters. And this is also when the behavioral change will come. So this is something that I've seen for the report, but also in my own research a lot. MSEs are short of time. They want to, just get ahead. And digital technologies are not a benefit in and of themselves, but they need to help them do something they're already doing. So if you can understand what they're already doing, what the processes are, and then you add to that knowledge in action, then I think the adoption will come very organically and by itself, because it just makes sense from the perspective. And I think that's where that knowledge in action and the behavioral change and digital technology adoption will go in hand. Easier said than done, of course.
Great, wonderful. Thank you, Nicholas. I think that was a very comprehensive answer, and the Center for Inclusive Growth supports this completely as well. So it's very interesting. My next question would be to Chloe. So Chloe, if you could summarize very quickly, what would be your key message to the audience from your presentation?
Thank you. I would say that each entrepreneur needs to be digitalized today, and it's very important for us that our clients don't be excluded of the digitalization. So we want to provide, and I think everyone should do it, support, but easy to use and adapted to their level of technological level.
Great, thank you. And then Agni, to you as well, what would be your key message to the audience regarding the skills, digital business skills that you want to help develop?
So we have seen, given the fact that in Greece 3 years ago, corporate businesses had digital presence only 60%. We have seen that during the past 3 years, this percentage rised up to 90%. So we have seen that at least our efforts have given some thought for food to micro and small enterprises, that it's a necessity to go digital.
Great, wonderful. I think that was very, very interesting to hear. Okay, so thank you everyone for this session. I'm wondering to see if there's any other questions coming through from the chat. I don't see, so I think we have time for maybe one more question. So I would say to Nicholas, it seemed that you've talked a lot about concepts that are quite broad. And I think you mentioned slightly at your end of your presentation some actions people can take. How do you think this can apply specifically to microfinance providers?
Yeah, thanks. It's a great question. So I think, expanding a little bit, applying what I said to the reality of microfinance providers, it's that you have to look at digital skills and skills in digital age more comprehensively. So trying to understand, your application or a specific financial application and whether or not it's being used is not enough, because that application will exist in a context of other technologies, but also of organizational realities and these broader set of skills that I mentioned. And so that, of course, makes it more difficult, because you kind of have to move out of your comfort zone and your specialty, even maybe understand kind of user interfaces and have this user centricity beyond just the use of your application. But it is necessary, because if some of these fundamentals that I mentioned, these fundamental capabilities, are not in place, they will not use the financial applications either, simply because the foundations are missing. And so I tried to allude to three of the broader support ways that are there, but I think the key insight is the partnerships, because financial providers are there within a much wider digital ecosystem, and the whole bundle of technologies that MSEs are exposed to or not exposed to is important to understand. So you have to partner with other training providers with sometimes local governments, etc. It's often also platforms, right? Digital platforms that they may use in their supply chains to sell their goods, the MSEs. I think this is where the access and the embedded use, as it's sometimes called, can be generated.
Great, thank you, Nicholas. And I think the concept of ecosystem and collaboration came through all three presentations, whereby, it's all about the ecosystem, partnerships, and collaborating. So with this, I think we're out of time. So I think this has been a very stimulating session. We've all learned something. I'd like to thank the speakers, everyone listening and watching, and also for MSC for hosting this conference. As the presenters mentioned, you can contact the speakers for more information at the end of their presentations, and the details will be shared as well by MFC later on. So with this, thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.